And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, we have got a very loaded slate for us here on the College Football Show this week. A lot of coaching carousel news to break down. We, of course, have Conference Championship Week this weekend in college football. And as of this recording, we have the latest top 25 college football playoff rankings and the final regular season week. So we now know the top 25. Sunday will be the last college football playoff poll that they release. So after Sunday, we will know who the 12 teams will be playing in this year's college football playoff to compete for a national championship. And right now, Johnson, we wanted the chaos a couple weeks ago. We're now at that point in the season where chaos is really, really heated up.
I love chaos, but before we talk about chaos, let's talk about boring structure with a little bit
there
of
was chaos
in
in
the
the coaching carousel, but yeah,
with a little bit of chaos in the beginning. And Lane Kiffin has proven to be a two-timing backstabber,
oh my God.
betraying the state of Mississippi and the good people at Ole Miss to become a turncoat and pretty much try to poach his entire staff to go to LSU. And majority of them said, no, that's not happening. So Nick, break it down.
Yeah, so he is now the new head coach of the LSU Tigers. He was trying to actually coach Ole Miss throughout the college football playoff, but the Rebels did not want that to happen. So Pete Golding, their defensive coordinator, is going to become the permanent head coach of Ole Miss for, it looks like, the time being. I don't know if it's how long it will be. Probably could be maybe a year experiment after the season. So he'll get the opportunity next year as well. So they do get Charlie Weiss back as well, their offensive coordinator. It looked like originally he was going to go to LSU. He was on the plane with Lane to go to LSU, but he's going to coach the Rebels in the playoffs, so he's going to be back there for the offense. So that's a big get for the Ole Miss Rebels. But yeah, the biggest domino in the coaching carousel, Lane Kiffin, officially off the carousel and now into the SEC, staying in the SEC, but going to the LSU Tigers. And as you mentioned, Johnson, it's a tough business, college football. Doesn't matter what you've done for me recently. The big name brands are still big. So Lane Kiffin wants the top dollar and wants the big opportunity with Louisiana State, and he's got an opportunity to do that now.
And with the modern day NIL, you could be a contender anywhere. With rich alum coming in, you can see it at Indiana. You don't have to go to historical football powerhouse nowadays, but Lane Kiffin wanted the easy way out. That's the only way you could put it. He wanted the easy way out.
Very messy way to end that relationship. That's for sure. Very
and you got to see a lot of people saying, like, oh, he should have been allowed to coach. I mean, Nick, even though Benedict Arnold was found betraying the United States, right? He should be able to maintain his position of general until the end of a war, right?
I don't know why Ole Miss would let a rival team, I don't know why Ole Miss would let a rival team steal their head coach and then say, you know what, it's okay. We want you to coach us for the college football playoff. Like that just will never happen.
I hear you.
It doesn't matter. I agree with Ole Miss what they did. They should not let him coach. You keep your DC in your OC for the playoff, and you're gonna make the DC now the permanent head coach. Let them just ride with what they have and see what they could do. Maybe they pull off a stunning run to a national championship. Who knows? They have the talent to do so. And right now, looking at where they're ranked, they have got a really good shot at making the getting a good run this year. But we'll break down their potential matchups later on in the show. But that wasn't the only news we had in the SEC in terms of new coaches going there. We saw South Florida head coach Alec Golesh. Now he's the new head coach at Auburn University. So a big change for him there. Of course, nice season with South Florida. They were not able to make the American Championship game, so they won't have a chance of making the college football playoff. But he now goes to Auburn trying to rebuild that program after a 5-7 season. We'll see how that goes. Tulane head coach John Summerall now goes to Florida to become their new head coach. Summerall is still going to have the opportunity, Johnson, though, to coach Tulane for the remainder of the season. He's going to coach Tulane in the American Championship game on, I believe that game is Friday. And then he will, if they get to the college football playoff, he will coach the Green Wave in the college football playoff. So a good opportunity for him to make an unbelievable run of epic proportions if they were to do so. And then he'll go to the SEC next year to coach the Gators. Any comments on those two before we continue with the next couple of hires?
Well, only really John Summerall as a Florida head coach because they're not rivals, so that's why they're able. That's why they're letting him do this. And let's face it, he doesn't really have much power for experience, and this is probably some great experience to get in the postseason. Should he make it there?
Yeah,
So I agree with this move.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, Florida fans were not really happy with the move at first, but I think you gotta give it time because I think it's just because of what they've had before. They've hired like guys like Napier uh, from non-group, group of five teams, and made him the head coach, and obviously that didn't really work out well. So I think give him time, and maybe it could work out. Other news we have in the coaching carousel: Michigan State hiring Pat Fitzgerald. So after taking a little bit of time off after the messy divorce with Northwestern, and after he won that settlement with Northwestern, Fitzgerald now goes back to the Big Ten, and he will coach the Michigan State Spartans. So very interesting hire. Definitely one out of left field when that happened. So we'll see if that works off. I did forget to put also in this in our notes Arkansas hiring. I forgot his first name. Is it Ricky Silverfield? I think the Memphis head coach. I'll have to look it up real quick.
Man, if only
Uh,
they could have hired someone that really coached the state before and was did a good job there. Wonder who they could have hired. Huh.
Ryan Silverfield. That was close. I knew it was with an R.
Yeah,
The
maybe
Memphis head
someone on
coach
a
goes to the
motorcycle
SEC.
could have helped them. I don't know.
Petrino tried. He tried,
He did.
but
He led them to an 0-7 record.
that is true. That is true. Um, so that's another hire in the SEC. We also saw Mark Stoops. After 13 years at Kentucky, he was fired by the Wildcats. They now named Oregon offensive coordinator Will Stein to become the new head coach. So crazy thing, Mark Stoops was one of the highest names in the coaching carousel. Just what was it, 2 years ago? I think it was when A&M was hiring Mike Elko. He was one of those names for the Aggies, and
Yep.
2 years later now, Stoops is fired from Kentucky. We'll see where he goes next, but it's crazy to think that that happened.
I mean,
How
Kentucky's never
far
been
it's
a
fallen.
football school, though, so it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, you were
No,
never
I
known for
agree.
football. You're a basketball program, so you got to get with the times, man. If you're going to compete in the SEC, you should be happy to be 7-6 or 8-5 on a good year. Like, you got to stop this nonsense. Like, yeah, he really wasn't that great the last 2 years, but you're not competing in football. You're not putting your money in football. You're not putting your NIL in football, so you can't say one thing and then put all your efforts towards something else.
And that was not the only Oregon coordinator that left for a new head coaching job. I'll talk about that in just a few short moments. James Madison head coach Bob Chesney is now going to UCLA. He's going to become the new head coach of the Bruins. I think he's still coaching James Madison for the moment until the season ends. So he will have an opportunity to win the conference championship this week and potentially get into the college football playoff if a certain scenario happens this weekend. We'll break that down later. North Texas head coach Eric Morris was named the new coach of Oklahoma State. So he'll go to the Big 12. Don't know about his stats either. I think he's still coaching North Texas for this current moment of time, but they did name a new head coach. They hired former West Virginia head coach and former assistant as of recently with the Texas Longhorns, Neil Brown, to become the new head coach. So Neil Brown will be the head coach of North Texas next season. They are right now in the midst of playing for the American Championship this weekend. It looks all but surely that the winner of that game is going to make the college football playoff, at least as a group of five member in the CFP, and could be one of two group of five members to make it this week. As I mentioned, I'll break that scenario down once we get closer to our rankings recap. And the final hire, as I mentioned earlier on, Cal hiring Oregon defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoy to become their new head coach. So Oregon losing both of their coordinators just right before the college football playoffs. So we'll see what happens for Oregon going into the CFP, losing their two coordinators. Any thoughts on these last couple of hires, Johnson, before we break down the
Only thing I gotta
poll?
say is I'm happy that North Texas is allowed to coach, and Eric Moore's allowed to coach through the playoffs. Same thing with Bob Chesney. Glad he's able to coach throughout the playoffs.
At least I
And
think they're
Neil
still coaching. I don't know what the status
and
is with that.
yeah, I guess we'll find out. And Neil Brown, I mean, I think he'll do good at a mid major. I think that's actually a good. I think that's a
I
good
mean
landing
that
spot for
he
him.
did good at a mid major before he got to West Virginia, so it's possible.
And he actually did decent at West Virginia too for a couple of years. So
Yeah, the last couple
I
of
think
years
it's
were
I
bad,
think
but
it's a
yeah.
good place for him to kind of revitalize his career. I think he'll be okay
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. As I mentioned, North Texas is legit in a win and in spot for the college football playoff this week. And if they just get, if he's able to recruit well, of course he's still in the state of Texas when he was just, as I mentioned, he was an assistant for Steve Sarkisian and company this past year. So he'll know the recruiting cycle in that state. Of course, also West Virginia head coach too. So it's a solid hire by North Texas. They have one that we'll see how it will play out over the course in time. But with all that being said, Johnson, let's break down the final regular season college football playoff rankings. And we, of course, had a big shakeup because of what happened this past week. We saw Texas defeating Texas A&M. So A&M loses their first game of the season. They are now officially out of the SEC championship game because of that loss. But they're firmly in the college football playoff regardless of the loss. So it's probably better that they did get the loss out of the way instead of losing it in the championship game. So we'll see what happens for A&M. For Texas, they do move up to 13th in the polls, but they're the third team out right now of the CFP. So it would take.
There is a nightmare scenario here.
Is there?
It's yeah. There's the
Well, yeah,
nightmare
I think
scenario,
what
which I will
Bama.
talk about later.
Okay, okay. All right, we'll talk about that later. Vanderbilt right now. I think the only reason they put Texas over Vanderbilt is because of the head-to-head, and I get that. But if that, then why didn't you do the same thing for Miami and Notre Dame? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't they do the same thing for that if they're doing that for Texas
So
and
you can
Vanderbilt?
pose this question this week, and then with the outlash, they'll switch him next week if everything goes as planned.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah. I think Notre Dame's in trouble right now. They're the official last team in. Bama moved up a spot after winning a very close game against Auburn in the Iron Bowl. They'll play Georgia in the SEC championship after A&M's loss to Texas. Other movement in the poll, we saw Texas Tech now is officially the number 4 team, as well as Georgia being the number 3 team. So Georgia was already in a spot where they could be getting that first round bye. Now Texas Tech, if they win the Big 12 championship, can get that opportunity to do it as well and get that first round bye. So we'll see if they're able to do so. But there's a nightmare scenario, as I mentioned, where might not happen, and you could see teams like Oregon and Ole Miss maybe even getting a bye if both Texas Tech and Georgia were to lose. So I would look to see if that maybe happens. We'll see if time will tell on that. Oklahoma stays in the top 10 after their close win over LSU. Um, BYU is the first team out of the poll, but of course, if they win the Big 12 championship, they will be in the college football playoff. It will more than likely be, I would think, a two-bit Big 12 team if they beat Texas Tech, but they might knock the Red Raiders out if they lose. So I'd be curious to see what happens in that scenario. Miami is the second team out at number 12. They of course need a lot of help to get there. They can't win they are not in the ACC championship game. They will need teams like Alabama and teams like I'm trying to even think. I guess even BYU losing won't help them. I think at the end of the day, they probably need BYU to lose and Bama to lose, and then they'll have to hope that the committee just gives them the benefit of the doubt for the head-to-head matchup with Notre Dame earlier in the year. Um, so I don't know what the case is with that. Um, Other than that, we have Jace Madison. Thankfully, getting ranked this late in the season. They're number 25. North Texas is number 24. Um, they will play Tulane, who's now number 20. American game will officially be the group of 5 team in the college football playoff, and they might get a second bid, which could be James Madison if James Madison wins the Sun Belt, rattled off with Duke beating number 17 Virginia in the ACC championship game. The Blue Devils, despite losing 5 games, are in the ACC championship game, and I think the only way I think Duke is there even a scenario where Duke can make it? I think there is.
No,
I think
no, there's not.
well, if James Madison loses and Duke wins, wouldn't
I
Duke get it
guess.
then? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Duke would have to get it because
Couldn't you
you
just take
need
someone from the
the.
Mount UNLV maybe if they win?
I don't think they're in the Mountain West Championship. No,
UNLV is in the Mountain West Championship. Yes, they are.
they are.
Yeah, they're playing Boise State. No,
What I thought I saw something this week where they got they weren't in because I don't remember what I was
No,
reading
Boise
about.
State is hosting UNLV. So I would say if Duke wins and UNLV wins and James Madison
Yeah,
loses,
I
UNLV
guess.
is in.
I guess I don't even know what I couldn't
Let's
even
go,
tell you
Running
what
Rebels. Let's go, the official team of Las Vegas.
Yeah, Dan Mullen's done a great job with that program. I guess I'm looking at the AP poll. It obviously doesn't mean anything for the college football playoff in terms of where the playoff committee has them, but I'm looking to see where if San Diego State's even like ranked in that spot or UNLV. I'm sorry, UNLV. Oh, UNLV is they're the fourth team out of the top 25 in the AP. So
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
Running Rebels.
I guess there's a scenario where UNLV could make it if Jace Madison and Duke win, or Jace Madison loses and Duke wins. Yeah, I guess there's that. Scenario, but that would be utter chaos if that happens.
Yeah,
Um,
listen, I'm for it.
oh, I know you are. Other than that, we saw Ohio State beat Michigan. They finally get the monkey off their back and beat the Wolverines. I'm trying to think of
Yeah,
any other big
good day for
games.
Coach Third Base.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, listen, he got it done. No, it wasn't. Michigan just still cannot move the ball offensively, despite paying all that money to Bryce Underwood this past season. And other than that, I don't think there's anything else to recap in terms of what we had happen this past week, as well as the newer rankings. Because even if we bring up the new teams that are ranked, like teams like Houston and Iowa, it doesn't really matter. They're not going to. They obviously can't make
Nothing's
it.
changing. Iowa's
Yeah.
not making the playoffs.
It looks like at this point, even for Vanderbilt, even though they're 14th in the country, I think they are officially out, right? Because I think you have to be
I would say
at least 13.
the way it would work is Alabama gets blown out so badly that they have to skip a couple, right? Alabama gets
Okay.
blown out. Duke loses.
Well, won't you want Duke to
I'm
win?
sorry, Duke wins.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know. I don't know.
I think Vanderbilt's done.
I think
Texas is. To be fair, I think Texas is also done. I'm not saying that they're in.
Well, you want BYU to lose.
You need
want
BYU
Duke
to
win.
lose.
You want Duke to win, and you need Alabama to get blown out so they don't even get considered.
But then wouldn't it just be Miami then?
And then maybe you can make the argument. Well, maybe it should be Texas or Notre Dame then at that point.
They probably would give it to. They probably would give it to Notre Dame.
They probably would, but you can't say
Texas has a better resume, but that loss to Florida is the difference maker.
It's the killer. I know.
Yeah,
if
they were 10-2, there's no doubt about it. Texas is in.
Yeah. So obviously, I think there's a 1% chance, and that being the 1% chance.
I can look up what the odds are, if anything.
Sub 5. That's my guess.
Yeah, I don't think their odds are good. I think they need to get over Miami, to be in a position. But because they were ranked 13 instead of 12, that probably ruined their chance.
That's probably done. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's a chance for them now. I'll see if I can find odds at this point in time. I think I found them here. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Even Bedford, it's Virginia. Okay, yeah, they're essentially saying Texas is done, which is it makes sense. They're 9-3. If you were ranked ahead, then yeah, but even this is not right. Because why is Texas A&M set? Yeah, that's not right. Don't disregard what I was just bringing up. I'll try to find a more accurate probability for the college football playoff, but right now I'm not seeing it. But anyway, with all those games happening, we now go into championship week mushing hour. Of course, the championship week is not as what it used to be in recent time memory for big conferences, obviously, because obviously in the Big Ten, doesn't matter who wins the Big Ten championship, they're both going to make the college football playoff. It means something for Alabama and the SEC because if they lose, they might probably get knocked out of the CFP entirely. It means something for BYU in the Big 12 because if they win, then they get in. For Texas Tech, it's not a guarantee if they get in to the CFP. They could fall out, in my opinion, but I don't think they would. And then the ACC, the AAC, and the Sun Belt, it means a ton for those three conferences because Virginia is the only hope it looks like for the ACC. The AAC is a guaranteed win, in my opinion. And in the Sun Belt, James Madison needs to win, and they need Duke to win the ACC to get in. So other than the Big Ten, every conference championship game matters this week for teams because they're trying to get into the playoff. So with that being said, Johnson, let's start it off with our first game of the week, and it starts on Friday in the Sun Belt. It's Troy at number 25, James Madison. James Madison is a 22.5-point favorite. 47.5 is the over-under.
Oh, man. What do I want to go here, Nick? What do I want to go here?
I don't know either.
I think we'll go JMU minus 22.5. They're going to blow out Troy and hopefully make the college football playoffs.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to stick with James Madison. I mean, obviously, I picked them at the beginning of the year to be my group of 5 team. So I'll stick with it. I will take James Madison minus 22.5 in this matchup as well. Even if they don't cover, they're going to win the game. I don't see Troy getting the job done in that matchup.
There you
go. What's our next game?
A trip to the college football playoffs, Nick. We have number 24 North Texas versus number 20 Tulane for the AAC, so the American League Championship, the spiritual successor to the Big East, or legal successor. Excuse my English. I should say.
You got it.
UNT minus 2.5 is the over as the spread, and the over under 66.5. I did it. I'm taking UNT minus 2.5. I love Tulane, but I'm taking UNT. UNT minus 2.5.
You picked Tulane as your group of 5 winner at the beginning of the year.
I did.
So you're going against what you picked?
Yeah.
No thoughts about it. Just yeah.
Yeah. No. Listen, I think UNT is the better team at this point. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, I'm going to go with your gut from earlier in the year, and I will take Tulane at home plus 2.5. I picked Tulane last year to make the college football playoff, and they missed it. I would like to see them get vengeance this year and make it. Both teams, of course, now with new head coaches going to next season. But they'll at least have, I think they have their former coaches coaching them until this season ends. So I'll take the Green Wave to cover 2.5. You give me a team at home underdog, I might as well just take it. So I'll take the Green Wave plus 2.5, but it's probably going to be a very high scoring game. This is why this game probably will be fun to watch. I'll be all eyes on this one. But I know you're going to be all eyes on this next one, Johnson. It's the ACC Championship. Who would have thought going into this year that this was going to be the ACC Championship game at the end of the season? Duke versus number 17 Virginia. Virginia, a 3.5-point favorite. 57.5 is the over-under. Like I mentioned, Virginia's the only hope for the ACC. If they want to get a team in the college football playoff, they have to win. If they lose, the only way the ACC gets a team in is if Miami gets one of those last remaining spots. So with that being said, Johnson, I think I know where you're going with this. Who do you have winning the ACC?
Well, first of all, 2019 called. They went to college basketball championship back. I'm taking Duke plus 3.5.
True. You taking Duke plus 3.5?
Yes, sir. Let's let the chaos begin.
I want the chaos too. I want Duke plus 3.5. We talked about the scenario about I don't know if it was a month ago, but a couple weeks. Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. We talked about this scenario happening, and the scenario has now played out perfectly. I want Duke to win just because I want the chaos, and I would love to see both James Madison and Tulane or North Texas make the college football playoff. So give me Duke to win the ACC. As you mentioned, 2019 college basketball would like to have a word for this game. So I'm with you on that game as well. In the ACC, what's our next game?
We have the Big 12 championship game. Number 11 BYU versus number 4 Texas Tech. BYU is a 12.5-point favorite. I'm sorry, BYU is a 12.5-point underdog. Texas Tech the favorite. 49.5 is the slated over-under. But I kind of spoiled my pick here. BYU to cover, but to lose. BYU plus 12.5.
Well, if you remember, the lone BYU loss this season was, of course, to Texas Tech, and it was a really bad loss for BYU in that game. They got beat up by Texas Tech. It's essentially a home game for Texas Tech, too, because this game is being played in Arlington, so they will have the home field advantage for this matchup. But I agree with you. I don't think they're going to blow them out like they did last time. I'll take the Cougars plus 12.5. I don't know if they're going to win this game, but if they do, they obviously will get into the college football playoff. And then it comes down to, do you put 2 Big 12 teams in, with Texas Tech losing their second game of the year? Or do you give the distinction to a Notre Dame or a Miami? But again, this is why the conference championship games are tough, because Texas Tech should make it, And if they lose, they have that scenario where they might fall out. So that's the only downside of having this conference championships at this point. I think that's the only. I think they're the only team that has that scenario outside of maybe. Oh, and Bama too. We'll talk about Bama in a second. Let's just go into that game. Bama and Georgia, number 9 Alabama, number 3 Georgia, SEC championship game. Home game for Georgia, of course, being this game is in Atlanta. Georgia a 2.5 point favorite. 47.5 is the over under. Georgia is firmly in Johnson. They won, or sorry, excuse me, they lost the meeting between these two teams earlier in the year. They only lost for Georgia on the season. Do they get revenge and potentially eliminate Bama entirely from the CFP, or does Bama clinch their spot with the win?
Georgia blows out Alabama. Georgia minus
Blows
two and a
out.
half. Blows them out. They're going to blow them
Wow.
straight out, and Vanderbilt's going to take their spot eventually.
You think do you really think Vanderbilt has a shot though?
No, but it's funny to say that.
Yeah, I guess it is funny. Yeah, I think you had to have been 12 to get the spot. Miami is praying for a Georgia win because if they win and BYU loses, then it comes down to Miami and Notre Dame being the final team in. And they might give Miami the distinction because they beat them early in the year. But again, we don't know. We don't know.
Wouldn't they just take Alabama's spot at that point? If maybe not. Yeah, you're right.
No, I'm trying to. Actually, no. You might. I think you're. No, you'd be
Yeah.
right. You'd be right because they would.
Yeah.
They would just replace Alabama, and then both teams would get in. So if you're
Yeah, that's
Notre
what I'm
Dame,
thinking.
actually, kind of want you actually do want Georgia to win and BYU to lose. I think the nightmare scenario is if Bama loses but BYU wins because then Miami.
That is the nightmare scenario
right,
for Notre
because
Dame.
then you at least get one Big 12. You're probably getting 2 Big 12 teams in, and then you come down to Miami and Notre Dame being the last team in. So if you're a Notre Dame Miami fan, you need BYU and Alabama to both lose this week because then you are firmly in. There's no debating about it. With that being said, I'll give the Dogs their credit. I'm going to give Georgia minus 2.5. They obviously lost the meeting earlier in the year. That game was also in Georgia. I just can't see them losing twice to Alabama in one season. The Tide, of course, have a lot more to play for in this game, but they haven't looked great as of late in these last couple of games. Not saying Georgia has, but I'll give the Dogs the credit just because I don't see them losing both their games this season to Alabama. I'll go with the Tide. I'll go with the Dogs minus 2.5 as well in the SEC championship game, and then Johnson will round it out with our final game. It is the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, we have number 2 Indiana versus number 1 Ohio State for the Big Ten championship. Ohio State is a 4.5 point favorite, and over under slated at 47.5. OSU is going to win and cover minus 4.5. So what happens if OSU blows out Indiana and Georgia wins? Georgia jumps Indiana, obviously.
Well, if Georgia wins the SEC championship, they're going to be the number 2 team, regardless.
So I have a question. If Indiana wins, I'll be the number 1 team. If it's Indiana by hair and Georgia by, let's say, 50 points, are they number 1?
Well, what happened? So you're saying if Indiana wins and then Georgia wins like convincingly? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, if Indiana wins by a last-second field goal and Georgia just blows out Alabama,
I think it would be Indiana number 1, Georgia number 2, Ohio State number 3.
So this is for number 1 regardless.
It's regardless who wins the game. It's obviously for the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I would agree.
Even if Indiana loses, there is still a scenario that they could be a top 4 team in the playoff. The problem is going to be if Texas Tech wins and Georgia. I think regardless. Now that I'm thinking about it, Johnson, I think regardless of who loses this game, they're going to be getting a first round bye. Because if you look at the teams after, Oregon's not going to jump Indiana, even if Indiana loses because they beat Indiana or they beat Oregon. Ole Miss obviously isn't going to jump them. I think regardless, whoever wins the game is getting the number 1 seed. Who loses the game is going to be the number 4 seed. That's probably what's going to happen.
I agree.
If Texas Tech loses, though, and Georgia loses, then it's all chaos. Because then I really don't know who gets the buys at that point. Both teams would get it, and you would tend to think either maybe Bama, I think would be one of those buys that they beat Georgia, and I think I don't know. I think the other one. I'm trying to think of who would be the last spot. It might be Oregon if both Georgia and Texas Tech both lose. It might be the Ducks. But that's a conversation for a different day, I guess. There's so many different possibilities and scenarios for what could happen this weekend. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to find the probability odds for it. You probably won't see them until tomorrow, if I had to guess, or if there is a probability, I'm just not seeing it at the current moment. But I think essentially what it looks like, I think it comes down to BYU and Miami are still alive. I think anybody after Miami is out of the race. Even though
I
Texas,
agree.
even though Texas and Vanderbilt had very convincing wins, I don't think it's going to be enough. Just because if Miami's still ranked ahead of you, they're essentially saying you've done a good job these last couple of weeks, but Miami still has just a little bit of a better resume. Which again, I don't agree with it, but it's the Texas loss to Florida that's killing the Longhorns, and then Texas beat Vanderbilt, so that's killing Vanderbilt. So that's why it comes down to BYU and Miami. And even if BYU loses and Bama loses, it's Miami's just going to get in regardless, and then Notre Dame would get in. Obviously, there wouldn't be a oh man we might not make it scenario. It's Notre Dame gets in easily because they would if they're not going to rank Notre Dame behind, lower than Texas now, then they won't do it on Sunday either. So if you're a Notre Dame Miami fan, you need a Bama and BYU loss this weekend.
Absolutely, that's
And
what you're rooting
if you're
for.
a James Madison fan, you need a win and you need a Duke win. And then you'll have 2 Group of 5 teams in the college football playoff. And I'll break down the matchups real quick for what the current spot is before we wrap up tonight's show. Ohio State is the one, of course. They would have a first round bye. They would play the winner of the 8-9 matchup, which at the current moment is a rematch between Oklahoma and Alabama. The 2 seed is Indiana. They would take on the 7-10 matchup, which is another rematch, this time between Texas A&M and Notre Dame. The 3 seed is Georgia. They would take on the 6 seed Ole Miss or the number 11 seed, which is going to be either the ACC champion Virginia or the American champion, which is North Texas or Tulane. And then you have Texas Tech as the 4 seed. They would take on either the number 5 seed Oregon Ducks or the 12 seed, who will either be the champion of the American or that wild scenario where it would be James Madison more than likely being the number 12 seed. So that's something to watch over the weekend. So the Sun Belt and the American have a chance to both get their teams into the college football playoff. Used to pray for times like this.
I think we are up for a very good championship weekend, Nick. And
yeah,
if you don't have anything else, take us home.
Well, yeah, of course, as I mentioned, Sunday, or not last Sunday, this upcoming Sunday is the final ranking show. I think the show is at 12 o'clock. So just before the NFL kicks off on Sunday at 1, you'll be able to break down the final 12 teams in the playoff after the matchups on Friday and Saturday. And then you and I will be back here next week. We'll break down those matchups. We will give our take as to who we think will win those respective matchups. Do we want to quickly do who we think will be the final 12 teams before we wrap up?
You know what? I think we all agree on the first 10 teams. I will say this.
Let's do it together. Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, Ole Miss, A&M, Oklahoma.
Yep.
I'm gonna.
James Madison.
I don't think. I'm gonna say Notre Dame. I'm gonna say Miami, and then I'm gonna go with North Texas or Tulane. Doesn't really matter. Whoever wins the games, regardless. And then I'm with you on James Madison. I think they get the 12.
Yeah, I think we both agree. I think we think Alabama's going to lose this, and Notre Dame is in.
Yeah, because Bama just can't make it with 3 losses. Because if Texas is going to make it with 3 losses, Bama's not going to make it with 3 losses.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think all right. So we both agree on that. Obviously, could play completely different if Bama wins, BYU wins. It would be a whole different scenario next week. But as I mentioned, we'll break that down on the show next week, and we'll recap what happened this past going into this past next upcoming weekend with Conference Championship Week. So, any final thoughts from you, Johnson, before we wrap it up?
Gig 'em.
Go Dukes. I want to be right about James Madison from the get-go. Be funny, though, both of our Group of 5 teams were actually in, though.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny.
You know what I'm looking at now? You picked Boise State. You did not have them.
I thought I didn't pick. Yeah, I could have sworn
I thought you had Tulane for some reason. I don't know why I thought that.
I think the previous year I had Tulane.
Were both of us on Tulane last year? No, you had Liberty.
Ah, Liberty.
I had Tulane. You had Liberty. I see. All right. Well, other than that, I'm looking at the rest of the rest of our rankings, and I didn't do great. We'll be determined about your teams after this weekend. You got a couple that are on thin ice with the matchups this week, so we'll see.
We'll find out.
We will find out. But other than that, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. We are through the regular season in the college football world, and we now head into Conference Championship Week and some big games going into the Conference Championship Week. The Sun Belt, can James Madison sneak in as one of the Group of 5 teams? The North Texas and Tulane winner will officially be in the college football playoff. Duke and Virginia, if Duke wins, they will help James Madison potentially get into the college football playoff. You have BYU and Texas Tech. Will both teams get into the CFP, depending on if BYU can win? You have Bama and Georgia. Bama needs to win the SEC to get into the college football playoff. And then you round it out with Indiana and Ohio State. Both teams are in. Both teams more than likely will be getting a first-round bye, but we'll have to see who gets the opportunity to be the overall number 1 seed going in to this year's CFP. For Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.